guys. My name's Sean. I run the Gunslinger. It's a 28-foot Alaskan. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about finding tuna, and this video is not for people who have experience. This is for folks that are just getting started. So if you've got experience, I probably don't have anything to say that you don't already know. But for those that are just getting started, you might learn something. So one thing I didn't want to cover is weather or bar crossings, the go, no-go decision. That's an entire subject in and of itself and is probably best left to others. One suggestion would be to talk to Charles Luce. He's the, he calls himself the ocean coach. He runs a website, does training seminars and whatnot. He's got some seminars online that are really good concerning, pardon me, the go, no-go decision and crossing bars. I've looked at it, and it's outstanding. So, one thing that I wanted to say is my particular experience. I've been tuna fishing my entire life. I was, running charters, I was using or hiring charters for years and years and years, and then finally decided it was time to get my own boat. So in 2017, I purchased a boat and started fishing in 18, and so this is our 7th season. That's correct, 7th season in my 3rd boat. So when you're getting ready to go fishing, you need to, in the couple of weeks running up, you need to be collecting information. You want to scour social media. You want to look at the various chat boards. You want to look at the local Facebook fishing groups. And oftentimes there's a lot of good information there. One nice thing is that a lot of people in Oregon are in Newport in particular, where I fish out of, are very willing to share, and so I reciprocate. When I find tuna, I'll put it up, and so that everybody can see it, so there's no secrets. So it's important to give back what you get. It's not like river fishing where you've got your secret hidey hole. The ocean's a big place, and we can all go out there and get plenty of fish. One thing you want to do is talk to boats that are coming in to the dock and find out where they went, how many fish they got, what they did as far as their spread, what lures they were using, time of day. These are all really important things. And of course, talk with your fishing buddies. They'll tell you for sure exactly where they went and how they did it. So those are 3 good ways to get some intelligence. Pardon me. What I do is, if I'm getting GPS coordinates, I'll actually plot those on my Garmin Active Captain, and I'll give you a screenshot of that. If you're plotting where tuna are being picked up at, eventually after you get enough data, what you're going to see is that the fish are very much tied to bottom structure. So when you go out on the ocean, you're not looking at a flat ocean. You're looking at a 3-dimensional representation, and the fish are keying off of the bottom where there is upwellings, there's rip currents, and where the water movement is colliding with the underground structure, and it's pushing nutrients up, which brings in the plankton, which brings in the bait fish, which brings in the tuna. And so you're going to see the tuna year after year after year come back to the very same locations. And sometimes they'll be there, sometimes they won't. They move around, they have tails. But the important thing to understand is that they are very much tied to the structure on the bottom. And the more data sets that you have, the more successful you're going to be. And I'll talk about that a little bit here in a bit. So you're going to want to look at satellite information. There's pay sites, there's free sites. You know, frankly, they're all getting their data from the same satellites. It's just how it's canned up and sold. Is it easy for you to understand or not? For me personally, I use Terrafin. I'm not getting any kind of a money from them. By saying that, I'm just saying that for the last 7 seasons, I've been using Terrafin and have found it to be very helpful for me. The sea surface temperature is the the second most important when you're looking at satellite shots. The chloro, to me, is the first most important. The reason I say that is because I've caught tuna in water anywhere from 56 to 70 degrees, and it's the chloro where the food is most likely going to be. Tuna fish will tolerate warmer or colder water if they can feed. The number one driving thing for tuna is the ability to feed. That's number one. What you're going to do is you're going to look at a satellite shot and you're going to compare the sea surface temperature to the chlorophyll. What you're going to look for is hard break lines between warmer water and cooler water, and the harder the break line, the better it is for finding tuna. So if you have water that moves from, say, 59 degrees to 63 degrees, you got a 4-degree jump right there. That's a very good indication that tuna are going to be in that warmer water and they're going to be darting into the colder water. Then what you're going to do is you're going to compare that satellite shot to the chlorophyll, and what you'll see is that oftentimes they correspond. If you see a hard temperature break line where you've got the warm water and the cold water creating a hard line, and then you see chlorophyll doing the same thing where there's less chlorophyll, more chlorophyll, then what you're going to do is that is going to be your target, because you've got the right temperature and you've got the chlorophyll, which is an excellent indication that there's bait there. And like I said, where there's bait, there's tuna. The tuna like to be in the clearer blue water and then dart into the greener water where the chlorophyll is located to feed and then come back out. Excuse me, they like to run along those lines. So you want to look for that in satellite data. Now, one thing I want to say about satellite data is to keep in mind that that satellite data, when it comes in, the numbers have been crunched, it's turned into a presentable visual picture, and then it's sent out by these services, is already a day or two old, hopefully no more than about 24 hours. So in places, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, you're often going to have cloud cover. It's just a fact of life here. The satellites aren't going to be able to pierce through the clouds, so what you're going to end up with is days and stretches of several days to a week where you're not going to be able to get a satellite shot. In those circumstances, you're going to have to rely on other things, and we'll talk about those a little bit too. So just understand that when you're looking at satellite data, sometimes it's a couple of days old to older, and if it's a good service, they're going to tell you when the sat shot came in, so that you can use that to judge the accuracy of the information that you're receiving. So because I'm a fisherman, I'm not a videographer. not fancy with all of this stuff. What I'm going to do is I'll edit it and I'll throw up examples for you as I'm talking in the final video, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm saying. Okay. Okay, so we talked about waypoints. And data is really important. Like I said, fish go to the same places year after year after year. They may come in, they'll feed, they may move to the north, feed, they move back to the south, feed. So just because they're not at a place that you had data points from the year before doesn't mean that they're not going to be there the next day or the next week. They move around. But it's important to understand that that is a very likely place that you may find tuna, and especially if you're having problems getting a satellite shot. So it's important to track I call it intelligence. It's waypoints that other people have given, lat longs that other people have given me that I'll put into a waypoint in my active captain because I run Garmin, and be able to track that. So I've got data from years ago where people had said, I found 40 tuna here, and they gave coordinates. I'll enter that in, and I'll be able to say, okay, there were fish here, and then be able to go back to that year after year after year. So as an example, if you don't have any kind of a satellite shot and somebody said that they fished out at a particular area, and you go out to that area and you're looking at your chart plotter and you see that you've fished there and had success 3 years ago, and that a couple of guys have fished there last year or this year and they had success, you could say that's probably a fairly good place to go back to. And so you're doing that just using your old data and somebody else's old data, and that'll increase your chances of being successful. So old waypoints are very, very important. Don't do like I did and not back up your waypoints. Here a couple of years ago, I lost like 2,000 waypoints going back all the way back to when I first bought my boat in 2017. I lost everything. That was with Lowrance. Pardon me. I don't want to get into a discussion of brands, but the point is back up your data. Don't be a fool like I was and lose everything. So once you've collected all this stuff, you've collected information off of social media, websites, talking to people at ports, talking to friends, your old data, satellite information, it's going to give you a pretty good indication where you want to go. So once you've pooled all that information, start trying to figure out where the best place is. And like I said, if you're looking at the satellite data, look for those hard break lines. It gets a lot trickier when the water's green, the chlorophyll is diffused. You've had a storm come in, the wind's been blowing, and the hard break lines are all blown to hell, and the fish are scattered. Things get a little challenging, and that's when you have to start falling back on your previous data. Okay, so when we're talking about drawing everything in and making a decision as to where we're going to go, I'm going to give you an example of something that I did back on September 8th. We went fishing, we caught 17 tuna. There's a video for it on the channel. We were successful in finding the tuna, and I'll share with you some of my decision-making process during that. One thing I want to say is that for us, we've been very, very successful in finding tuna year after year. There's been only a couple of times in the last 7 years where we didn't actually find tuna. So I'm not bragging, I'm just saying that using these methods is very, very effective. For us, we had some intel that a guy caught tuna, I think it was 24 tuna, at a particular GPS coordinate on September 5th. So I plotted that location. I'll show you the location on the map. And this is my Garmin Active Captain off my phone, which matches the chart plotter, by the way. And then we pulled up the satellite charts. The satellite charts indicated that there was a hard break line up in that area, and so it was in the correct area. I also had some older data to the northwest where in August people had caught fish a number of times. And then for us personally, you'll see the marks down below. There's some kind of off yellow looking fish marks, and then there's the green squares. Those are all indications of fish caught. Now, I've caught fish there a couple of seasons before, so we know that that's a good location, that the fish are coming up against that big seamount right there, and that they're hugging that seamount. This area is to the northwest of Nelson Island. For the locals, they'll recognize that. It's a extremely large seamount. And so what we did is we came in and got to just northwest, pardon me, of Nelson Island, and we dropped gear. The reason we dropped gear is because we were seeing the proper sea surface temperature, which was 61-ish degree water. We were in an area where we were seeing blue water. What we were doing is, when it's cloudy, it's very hard to see whether the water is blue or it's green, just because of the effect of the clouds on the water. So what we'll do is we'll look behind the boat at the, not the spray is going to be white, obviously, but at the water that's showing where the props are cutting into the surface, and you'll see the color of the water represented right there, and that's a really effective way to tell exactly what the color is, as opposed to looking out around you. The surface color is being affected by the clouds, the sun, so on and so forth. So we saw the proper color water, and then we started looking, and we're seeing birds. The birds, what are they doing? They're going to be searching. Birds are the best fishermen in the world. They're searching for the bait, so they're flying around and they're actively seeking. What that's telling me is that there's bait in the area. The birds are there. They know the bait is there, but the bait's gone down. And it comes up, and then you'll see birds diving onto the bait. Or what they do is, if the bait goes down, the birds may sit right on the water. And if you see a collection of birds there, sometimes if you pull up short and you sit there and watch them, you'll see them actually looking down at the water below them, because they know the bait is right down there. So where there's bait, there's often going to be tuna. Sometimes you'll see bait actually boiling on the surface, or tuna, for that matter, jumping or boiling on the surface. So you're looking for signs of life. The birds are an excellent indicator. On that particular day, we saw the birds were active. They were moving around. They were sitting on the water, and then we started seeing crashing. So that's where the birds are coming down. They're diving down, hitting the water and grabbing the bait. At that point, we were well short of where we had initially decided to go fishing, and I'll represent that on the map to you. So what we did is we dropped gear and immediately hooked up. We ended up hooking 2 fish on the troll, 1 on the jig, and unfortunately that was the last fish that we caught on jig. We worked it and worked it and worked it doing bait stops, but we just weren't having any luck. So that area wasn't panning out for us. And I'm one of those people that says you don't ever want to leave fish to go find fish, but the problem was that the fish went down and they weren't coming up, so we had to keep moving. What we did is we continued trolling due west until we came to, I don't know what the seamount is. It's an unknown name. It's on the center lower portion of the picture that I'm showing you. And you'll see with our red line that we turn to the north. And so what my intention was there is to turn up towards the warmer water. Remember the satellite shot. And I also was going to run through those numbers where we had caught fish before. So that's an excellent indication of somewhere that you want to troll through. And we did. We trolled through, and we ended up getting several more fish right in that area on the south side. And we just continued to work that area, and eventually we switched over to a troll game, and we went and started widening our search area until we found the main school, and then just worked that. That's just a little bit northwest of the original location, where you can see that we turned the boat to the northwest. I put a blue circle there, and that's the area where we started focusing on the fish again. We were really starting to pick up. We actually got a quad on at one point, brought 3 into the boat, but missed one. I had 2 relatively new fishermen, 1 new fisherman and 1 guy who was new to tuna. And so we ended up putting a pile of fish on the boat, and then one of the guys saw a big, giant shark come right through the middle of our area, and our bite went dead. And it went dead for about an hour, and then it just started to pick up a little bit again, but unfortunately we were out of time. So you can see, how the decision-making process goes there. One thing I want to say, and I don't want to be too critical, because obviously, if you're a charter boat, it's different. You're going to have people with all kinds of different skill levels on the boat. But for guys that are, they've got their buddies or, new people that they want to bring on the boat, one thing I tell guys is that, look, you're going to have to act as a lookout. You got to be out there scanning for fish, scanning for surface disturbance, communicating back to me as the captain as to what you're seeing. And if you got a guy who's just sitting there and he's not really wanting to actively participate, then that's probably not somebody that you're going to want to have on the boat or fish with again. You got to have everybody visually searching. And so I'll get feedback from guys, hey, there's a group of birds sitting over there, 10 o'clock, about 300 yards, and I'll turn the boat and I'll go over there and I'll run right through the middle of those goddamn birds. I'll run them right over. Because the chances are they may be sitting on top of some bait, and maybe the bait got pushed up by tuna. So that's all really important. And in fact, I use gyro stabilized binoculars. I have a pair of regular binoculars on the boat too, but quite honestly, looking through them makes me seasick. So I got the gyro stabilized binoculars. They're expensive, I'm not going to lie. The cheaper set was like $800, but they flat work, and they help extend your range so that you can see stuff, hundreds of yards out. And then we'll use it to identify other boats that are around us. Look to see what our buddies are doing when we're fishing with buddy boats. Are they on a bait stop? What are they doing? So, anyway, on this particular day, it was ended up being just a straight troll game in the afternoon. Like I said, we weren't having any luck with jig fishing, and so we just converted back over to a troll show. What we did is we dropped 2 dive boards into the water on either side of the transom, and then we run a dongle right up the middle, which is all it is. It's a commotion maker. It skips along looks like a fish jumping or a bird landing. It just splashes. And then we have our 4-trail rods, which we were running when we were jig fishing. And then the way back rod up in the rocket launcher. We run a pretty heavy setup. It's set up for bigger fish, bluefin marlin, because as we all know, they're out here. And so once we had the 8 lines in the water, we just kept on keeping on. We caught a few on the dive boards, most on the troll rods, pardon me, and ended up doing okay. So we had another boat out there. I forget the name of the boat. Nice guys. I mean, it was just them and us, and I think we were the only ones out there fishing. So, get. Go on, get. And it was funny because, they were like, we're just a couple old guys out here fishing. And it's like, you know what, man? I think he said he was in his 70s. And I'm like, you know what, man? Rock on. I hope I'm still out there fishing when I'm 72. Yeah, nice guys. They got their fill and they pulled up and left. We stuck it out for about another hour, but I got to tell you, you'll see the weather chart that I'm putting up. It was going to start getting a little sporty, and with the wind, and I could tell that the wind was picking up. So the decision to pick up and run was definitely a good decision. If you look at the height and the period of the waves, you'll see that Sunday the 8th was kind of a margin call, even for a 28-foot boat. It was predicted that it was going to be 7 to 11 miles an hour at 9 a.m. and then reduced down to 6 to 9 miles an hour coming out of the north for the afternoon. But then you'll see that the wind starts to pick up. Now, that's pretty typical, but that was actually a pretty windy day. And it was gorgeous during the afternoon, but you could tell that wind was picking up. And then you'll see that the swell was pretty much 4.5 wave height on 9-second, and stayed pretty consistent throughout the day. Going out in the morning in the dark, it was a washing machine. It was a tough go. At times we were doing 11, 12 miles an hour. Coming in, we were averaging, 22 to 25 miles an hour. So things definitely did improve as far as the mixed swell. And then as far as the tide goes, I'll throw that up as well. In the morning, we were looking at crossing the bar at high tide at 4:30 a.m. It's actually 4:25 a.m. And quite honestly, that is the best and safest time to cross. That's when the water is highest at the jaws, and it's going to be the smoothest. So that was definitely in our favor. All in all, I think we ended up having an excellent day, and it was good fishing, and we had a great time. As far as lures go, there's a million different lures that you can run, and everybody's got their favorites. We typically use white 4-5 and 6-inch clones. Pardon me, and we use the same for Mexican flag or zucchini. Really, they're so close in color, but to me they're kind of one and the same. Mexican flag has red thrown in there. Zucchini has orange. So the only real difference in those lures is just a little bit of the shading of the red to orange. And quite frankly, Mexican flags, after a couple of seasons, that red fades out to orange anyway. So we use those in 4.5 to 6-inch, and then also on purple and black. We run purple and black quite a bit too. And there's lots of other cool colors out there, and I've got all kinds of different lures. Hell, I've got sets I haven't even used yet. A lot of guys really like the pink and white. I don't usually run pink and white. I can't tell you why. Other than it's not really a natural color to the Pacific Northwest, as far as I know. One thing I do want to say, though, is that you got to keep in mind that in the early morning or later in the evening, or on days where it's really cloudy or rainy, typically we'll run purple and black. You want to run a darker color because it's going to match the surroundings. On a lighter or bright sunny day, you're going to want to run lighter colors because that's what's going to match the surroundings. The other thing I was going to say is that I'm a firm believer in matching the color of your lures, whether you're running dive boards or whether you're running a dongle or, pardon me, troll rods. I believe you should match your colors, and the reason being is because in nature, you're not going to see mixed bait fish schooling together. It just doesn't happen, at least in the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't happen. As far as I know, bait fish will stay with their own kind, and so it would be extremely unusual to see different colors. Now, fish will bite if they're hungry. I'm not gonna say they don't bite, but that's just something for me. That's my OCD coming out, maybe. And then, of course, you're going to want to match the hatch. What we do is we cut the stomachs open on our tuna fish every time. Every time. We may not cut them all open, but we do throughout the day to see what's going on. If fish have empty stomachs, they haven't been feeding very well, and when they do come up to the surface, they're going to be hungry and they're going to be biting. If fish are full, they're going to be a little bit more choosy and may not want to bite our plastic shit that we're throwing in the water. If they get really hungry, though, you have a better chance of getting that lure bit. So, hell, I've had them, come up on deck where they're so full they're puking bait fish out. So a lot of times what we'll see little saris, the long slender silver things, or things like the white squid. And if they're feeding on squid, we may decide that we're going to switch over to the 4.5-inch white squid skirts. If they're feeding on saris and it's a sunny day, we might switch over to blue and silver, or at least a zucchini. So you just want to throw that into your decision-making process. And then, we could talk about things like equipment and trolling tactics and all kinds of different stuff. But I just wanted to give you guys some food for thought of what to look for, the information to gather when you're getting ready to go, and the decision-making process that you're going to want to go through when you're out there. And hopefully some of this info has helped you guys out. Like I said, we've done very, very well at fishing. We've been very successful. We've caught a lot of fish over the years. So I'm not saying I'm the best in the world, because I'm not. But these are tried and true tactics, and I know that these are tactics that other guys are using on their boats as well. And there's some really great seminars out there, by the way, to go take a look at. I think Del Stevens, he calls himself the tuna dog or some such shit. He's got a lot of good info as well. I attended one of his seminars, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. It was at England Marine. Anyway, I got a lot out of it back then too. So suggest him as well. But appreciate you guys' time, and take care. It was a great season, and appreciate you guys tuning in. Like and subscribe. We will catch you later.